Hi, let's say you're a college student and you have a paper to write. Is it true you can't use so-called popular sources? And what are these academic sources that you're expected to use? We'll talk about that and more in this video, the first of our series on evaluating sources. Hi, this is Kent Lee, and welcome to the English Wiki channel. You may have heard in a writing class that there are academic sources and popular or general sources. I find this two-way distinction unhelpful for a couple of reasons. The serious academic sources are probably too difficult for a lot of college students to really use and understand in academic papers, especially in their first 2 years of college. There are the popular sources, and students are told that, well, most popular sources can't be cited, but then there are some that are better than the others, and those can maybe be cited. I think this is confusing. So in my writing classes, I use a three-way distinction, and these are not black and white or absolute categories, but more of a spectrum or a continuum. Over here we have the serious academic sources, which are mainly for academic writers, and college students might start to deal with these in their third or fourth year of college, but for especially a first and second year college student, these would be too difficult to use. There is this middle category that I call professional sources, which can be used especially in first and second year college classes, and even into the third and fourth year. Then there are the real popular general sources, which generally are not used or cited in college papers, but there are some exceptions. So, how do we distinguish these categories? How do you tell what's a citable professional source versus a not so good popular source? Well, I have 4 criteria in mind. One is the author. Who is the author? Is the author a credible expert, a trained academic expert in the field, or at least a professional expert, someone who has years of professional expertise and credibility in the field? Second, the audience. Who is the audience? Is it a general audience, an educated audience, or a real academic audience? Third, the information in the article. Is the information primary or secondary? Does it have the quality, depth, and precision to be a good source? How is the information obtained? Last, we have the quality control. Is there some kind of quality control or vetting mechanism in place to ensure that the information is well-researched, accurate, precise, and in-depth? These in turn affect other factors like the style, the tone of the writing, and how and where the articles are published. So first, the popular sources. For popular sources, the author is generally a non-expert. The author does not have enough formal academic training in the field to be a credible or reliable expert. The author does not have enough professional experience in the field to be a reliable expert. The author may be a complete non-expert in the field, somebody who doesn't really have the credibility and the reliability to write about the topic. The audience is a very general audience. It could be educated, less educated, young, old, basically anybody who can read. The information may be good information, but it is not good enough for a college paper in terms of the depth, the precision, or the accuracy of the information. It is usually secondary information. The writer has gotten the information from somewhere else, and often the source may not be even cited or indicated. The information might be some primary information from the author's investigative work, but it is not good enough for a college paper because the author does not have enough expertise. It could also be anecdotal information, subjective information. It could be completely wrong information. It could be information that is not at all reliable. Finally, the quality control. There may be absolutely no quality control mechanisms, or it might be an editor, publisher who is concerned as much about factuality as the commercial appeal of the writing. So it is driven by commercial interests as well. As a result of these, the style is often informal, colloquial perhaps, or superficial, not very precise or in-depth. There may be a focus on visual appearance for mass market appeal. Some examples: general trade books, that is, books that are typically marketed to the general public, the kinds of books you find in commercial bookstores. Periodicals, that is, publications published periodically, such as daily newspapers, weekly news magazines, weekly entertainment magazines, sports magazines, various popular magazines, and smaller newspapers. Popular media sources, most internet sites, such would count. Social media would count as popular sources. So, can you cite popular sources in a college paper or academic paper? Short answer, no, but long answer, it depends. There are certain times when you might cite examples of a popular phenomenon or popular opinions in such a paper, in which case you could cite such sources. We'll talk about that more in the next video. Next, we have professional sources, and these are the kinds of sources you can readily use in a college paper. The author is an expert of some kind. The author could be an academic expert who has written a book for a more general but educated audience. The author could be a professional expert in some particular profession or field. They have years of experience in a field, expertise, and have worked at a fairly high position in the field so that they have credibility. The audience is usually a more educated audience, say a college-educated audience, perhaps with some background in the field. The information may be often secondary information. The author has gathered it from other sources but cites those sources somehow. The information may also be primary, the author's investigative work, or the author's analysis. There is some kind of quality control in that there's an expert doing it, and there is probably an editor involved who has enough professional or academic background to make sure that it is of decent quality. Examples. Sometimes academic experts write books for a general educated audience. The better in world-famous newspapers and news outlets where you have investigative reporters who are experts in their fields, and they do good investigative research and reporting, so the information is reliable. These would include news outlets such as the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Independent, the Guardian. There are also professional trade journals, journals for people working in a particular profession, which are written by academic and professional experts. Finally, we have the solid academic sources. These are by academic experts for other academic experts. The writers are professors, doctoral students, full-time researchers who have academic training or credentials, and the audience is likewise other researchers in the field, scholars and scientists. The information is largely primary because it is mainly presenting the writer's original research, their own scholarly analysis, or experiments, scientific experiments, or other research, and are reporting it to an audience of academics. For this reason, this kind of material is probably difficult for most college students, and it is more often used by graduate students. Quality control. There are strict quality control mechanisms involved in publishing academic research, which I will explain more in a later video. The tone and style are thus quite technical, dense, and academic. Generally, as a student, you would not be citing these in papers unless you can actually understand them. If you can't understand them, you don't want to cite them. Examples include academic research journals, which present the author's original research in the form of shorter articles, or a full-length book known as a monograph, that is a book about a particular academic topic. There are also other kinds of academic publications which we will look at more in a later video. So, in summary, we have academic sources, professional sources, popular sources. college students will probably tend to cite professional sources and then later move on to academic sources. The criteria for judging the quality and the type of a source are the author, whether the author is an expert of some kind, the audience, the intended audience, a general audience, an educated audience, an academic audience, the information, the type of information, quality of information, how it was obtained, and finally the quality control mechanisms. We'll explore these different kinds of sources in more depth and detail in the following videos, so please come back next week for a more in-depth look into popular sources and whether you can use them in academic papers. Thank you.